This week's episode brought to you by Sponge. We can't promise immortality, but we guarantee you'll die if you don't eat it.
Welcome back to the Alpha Nerds Podcast, the podcast for alliterative alphabet addicts. I'm Bart.
And I'm Pete.
And every week we do a TV show or a movie or something that has to do with one letter of the alphabet. And this week's letter is O!
Oh!
All right. How you doing, Pete?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm so tired, but we have a show to do. So, as always, we have 5 honorable mentions before we get into the meat of the podcast. So, Pete, why don't we dive in on yours? What's your 5?
All right. First off, I got The Oatmeal.
This is
one
excellent.
of my favorite webcomic artists, and he's got, I want to say, 7 books out now.
Something like that.
But it's really funny, and just his art style, especially with like the rabid faces. Just
it's like
so much fun to look at.
It's really goofy and like exaggerated, but it's good. It works.
Yeah, and he swears creatively. He's one of the most creative swearing I've ever seen. So that's.
What do you mean? Can you give me an example?
Let me see. I think I remember him calling something a soul carving hog beast.
Righteous.
Something like that, and I don't know. But that's kind of like how he calls things, but whatever. Next, I have Ogloff, which is another webcomic.
Yeah, I've heard of this, but I've never actually watched it or read it.
That makes sense, because it is super X-rated. Like, very first comic, we open up on a guy masturbating.
Oh, that's lovely.
And then he finishes, and then, his spooge just kind of like comes to life, which we then refer to as a cum sprite. It stands up on 2 little legs, looks at him and goes, "I'm telling," and runs away.
Lovely. How do you respond to that? Just like, yeah, it just came to life, so... Anyways, I've got to go catch it now, so...
Yeah, it becomes revealed that he is an apprentice to a sorceress who cursed his balls so that anytime he masturbates, his cum will go and rat him out.
That's so wrong.
And it's, just tons of, like, sex jokes like that. It's great. Yeah. It's really funny. They got 2 books out. I don't know if they're going to be publishing any more, but whatever. Third, I have The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. What is this?
This is one of Neil Gaiman's newest books.
Oh, okay.
And this one's really interesting because it basically started off when someone asked Neil Gaiman to talk about his childhood. And so he just kind of fabricated this completely fantastical story. Just like a mix of sort of half-remembered childhood memories and also like blended with that childhood imagination where, you let things get a little too out of control with your imagination, so you're not sure if like something was actually real. Yeah. So it's a really good book. Pretty short. You can probably thumb through it in about a couple of days.
Oh wow, that's not bad.
Yeah. After that, I have Oompa.
I haven't heard of this one either.
This is the music you think of when you think of Oktoberfest.
Ah, okay. Nah.
Yeah.
I don't know why mentioning Oktoberfest brings it into my head, but
it's basically it's basically just German brass band music.
Yeah, it's like polka without the like chipperness.
Basically. And I picked this because I just love saying the word Oompa.
Oompa!
So, yeah, there's that. You can't say that word without thinking of someone in Lederhosen. And finally, I have Orange is the New Black.
Which I've never watched.
And yeah, I don't blame you. This is one of those things where I don't like it, but I have to freaking finish it, and it better come to a freaking end soon because I'm done with this thing. So it's supposed to be like a comedic drama set in a women's prison, and the main character is the most hateable one. And so you're just sitting here watching this person suffer, feeling like you should feel bad, but at the same time you're like, yeah, you're a bitch though.
Oh, so you're getting what you deserve.
Like, okay, so yeah, this woman goes to prison because she was basically part of a drug smuggling ring, but, you know, she kind of like got a commuted sentence because she's one of those like she's from like one of those waspy families up in the Northeast.
Yeah, one of those.
Like from Connecticut. So, yeah, and then she's basically, you know, in prison with a bunch of people who were not anywhere near as well off as her, and then, you know, turns out they don't particularly care for that shit.
Yeah, fun. Fancy that.
And so, like, she goes in and she's like, I'm just going to keep my head down and do my time. It's like, well, guess what doesn't work in prison when you're fucking rich? Keeping your head down.
There's a really good podcast called Ear Hustle that's recorded in, I think it's San Quentin. Recorded in San Quentin by the inmates about, like, prison life. Yeah, if you, like, want to know what it's, like, actually like in prison, like, go listen to that podcast. It's pretty good.
Nice.
There was one line where the dude's like, they gave me a biblical sentence. I'm not getting out of here until Jesus comes back. So sorry, dude.
Oh my god. Oh, that's awesome and terrible.
Yeah, he had like 1,000 years on his sentence. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, when he dies and gets reincarnated, that guy's going right back to prison.
It's so messed up.
But anyway, okay, there are some good things about the show. Like, they basically show how all of the inmates that are part of the show got sent to prison.
Right.
And some of them are, like, really tragic stories. Some of them where it's like they took the fall for someone else. Or some of them where they're just genuinely batshit crazy. Like, they're there for violating a restraining order. So, yeah, it's got funny moments, but it's also got, like, a really lot of, like, shit just keeps getting worse kind of moments.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, when things progressively good happen, you're like, this is going to fall apart any second, isn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of like a whole series based around watching Game of Thrones with, like, waving your little House Stark pennant. Like, yay, and another one died.
Yeah, they do that.
We're down to, like, 3?
4.
4. So, yeah, there's that. So those are my 5.
3.5.
Bart, what have you got?
So first off, I have OK Go.
Nice. As well we should.
Yeah, because they let us use our music. So the reason we actually thank OK Go at the end of every episode for the use of their music is because Pete actually asked them on Twitter if we could use that song. And they said, I don't see why not.
Yep.
Yeah. So
way back when we were trying to figure out, like, what we were going to do for an intro, I'm just, like, hanging out at a bar. I'm like, I wonder if they, like, I wonder if they talk to their fans on Twitter. So I just, like, asked them that question. And they said, yeah, sure. And I screen capped that and sent it to Bart. I'm like, boom, got our intro.
Yeah, I really didn't think it would be that easy.
Yeah.
But,
so,
hey, and they're clearly, like, pop band. They rose to fame in 2007 with the video for Here It Goes Again. And
those who were born afterwards, it's a really awesome video where they're, like, doing stuff on treadmills, like 8 treadmills. That
became their calling card, was just the ridiculously complex one-take video. So have you ever seen the video for, I think it's Waiting for Love?
I think so.
No, it's Needing and Getting. That's the name of the song. So what they did was they're driving a car down a road, and the car has like it has xylophone keys that are hanging off the undercarriage. It has like a giant stick with like a fist on it. So they're driving down, hitting pianos, dun 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 dun, like 15 pianos, because every time they hit a note.
Wow.
Like there's a part where they have to do the guitar solo, so they're just running through guitars. And then the best part is they get to the end, throw it in reverse, go do it all again.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that video is amazing. Need to get it.
That's awesome.
But that's their like trademark. Like and they even did work for, I think it was Yo Gabba Gabba, where they did the red and blue makes purple, purple and or red and orange, or red and yellow make orange. That one.
Oh yeah.
Is it Yo Gabba Gabba or Sesame Street? But that's really good. So thank you to OK Go, as always.
Thank you guys.
Next up is Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Ah.
And that is a fantastic movie by the Coen brothers, who have done a lot of very good movies, like The Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men and all that.
Yeah.
But
the only thing I don't like about that movie is the music.
In No Country?
Yeah.
Or Oh Brother?
Or in Oh Brother.
The music's the best part.
I don't know. Like, I'm just not... I'm not into, like, that sound.
Yeah. The movie set in the 1930s in, I think, Kansas or Kentucky, one of the two. But it's all bluegrass music. It's a celebration of that, and they even meet a character who's basically just Robert Johnson, who's the blues musician who people always say laid the foundation for rock and roll.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a song, there's the Oh Death, when they're going after the Klan. Okay, I mentioned the Klan and all this. So Oh Brother Where Art Thou is actually a retelling of Homer's Odyssey.
There's some... I mean, yes, it is, but it's not exactly a retelling, because there's a lot of stuff that's added that was never in the Odyssey, and there's a lot of stuff in the Odyssey that was never added.
Yeah, the Odyssey didn't really have cars, but...
Well, I mean, like, they had the Cyclops, they had the Trial, and they had the Sirens, but they didn't really have Scylla and Charybdis. They didn't have, like, what was it? Well, they kind of combined the Sirens with Circe, I guess.
Yeah, because she turns one of them into a toad. Well, not really, but...
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah.
That's another great part of that movie, the do not seek the treasure.
that was pretty good.
Thought you was a toad. He gives this cross-eyed look, just... Do not
seek the treasure!
But that movie's amazing. Really good. Because I remember telling a dude on the ship, I was like, it's retelling the Odyssey. And he's like, what, really? And he got interested in it. So, Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Great movie. Keeping Up with Clooney. Next up is Ocean's 11.
Nice.
Which is set in Las Vegas. And first movie to use Debussy's... gosh, what's the name of that song? Dang it, that like big classical piece that they play at the end by the fountains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time that really gets used in a movie, and it's beautiful and it's perfect.
Yeah, it really is.
That movie's amazing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're from Vegas or not, but if you are, it's better. Especially, you know what? Something that I like about it? There's an implosion.
Oh yeah.
Because that's a very Vegas-y thing.
It is. It's like a whole like, it's like a whole big event. It's Vegas's version of a barn raising.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like it's something that the whole town goes to see, and it's like, hey, we're gonna watch this building fall. Bitchin', I'll bring beer.
I remember they when they did the Aladdin, they kept a camera in one of the hallways.
Oh yeah.
So you got to see this hallway just like turn down and just do, and then the camera tipped and just gone.
Man, what a waste of a good camera.
It was a great shot. It was worth it for that camera die.
It was, yeah. Still, like, those things are expensive. I know because I had to save up for one.
Yeah. So after that, we're gonna do "Ordinary People" by John Legend.
Nice.
which is that's probably my favorite John Legend song. And I actually don't like the album version as much as I like the not the radio edit, but the video version.
Yeah.
Because in the album version, it's just John, his piano, and that's pretty much it. But in the video version, it's John, his piano, and when it gets to the crescendo, the climax of the song, the camera is on him and his piano. It zooms out, and you see this orchestra there, and he's playing along with the orchestra. It's fantastic.
Nice.
But anybody who's never heard "Ordinary People," it's the best John Legend song. Anybody who doesn't own a John Legend album, just go out and buy one. Just go on iTunes and get a John Legend album. It really doesn't matter which one. That's the best part. And then my last one is Old Boy. So, yeah, Old Boy was a manga that they made, sometime in the 80s, I think. And the premise is this. This character has been locked up in a room for 10 years. 10 years? 15 years? I think it's 10 years. He's been locked up in a room for 10 years. And then one day he's just let out.
Huh.
He's been getting his haircuts in the room. He's been being fed in the room. It's just been a bed, a TV, him. That's it. And it's about him trying to figure out who put him in this room and why.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah, you've never read Old Boy? You've never heard Old Boy?
Nope.
So the manga is really good. They made a Korean movie that is not like the manga, but has amazing action sequences. But as with most things, it's just very, very dark and creepy. And, dude, it gets sick.
Nice.
No, not nice.
No, I like, yeah. Manga knows how to do fucked up shit.
No, it wasn't the manga that was weird. It was the Korean film that was weird.
Oh.
Not that Korea doesn't know how to do messed up things, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God.
No, I didn't mean it like that. Edit, undo. Dang it. No.
Oh, God. Okay.
Pete started talking about something that's not me.
Okay. So, is that your 5?
That's my 5.
That's your 5. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn the subject to my subject for the week, which is Over the Garden Wall.
Hi folks, Future Bart here. So the next little segment contains pretty heavy spoilers for Over the Garden Wall. So if you're concerned about that, just skip ahead by about 20 minutes and you should be fine. Thank you. Nice. That's a really good show.
This was a 10-part mini-series made by Patrick McHale, who was the head writer, the head illustrator, storyboard artist. Dude was all over it. This was... To say this was his baby would be an understatement. This was his Pinocchio. And he also forcibly grabbed the blue fairy and smashed her into it. It's bring it to life, bring it to life, bring it to life. So, there are 10 episodes. They're each about 11 minutes long. So, altogether, it's about a feature-length movie.
Nice.
And it actually started, the sort of pilot pitch sort of thing was a 9-minute segment called The Tome of the Unknown.
I've never seen that.
It's good. Cartoon Network has it for free viewing on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So, the overall story is these two stepbrothers are in this forest, which is later referred to as the Unknown, and they have to basically find their way home. So, right off the bat, classic story, kids lost in the woods. So, already got the ball rolling. No, no inciting incident or anything like that. We're just immediately lost. So, we have the older brother, Wirt, who's voiced by Elijah Wood.
Yay!
And he is dressed in... He kind of looks like a garden gnome.
He really does. It's the red pointy hat that does it.
It's the red pointy hat, and he also has this blue cloak thing on. So he kind of... He looks Arrow-like. He looks triangular.
I never thought of that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, he's he's probably one of those kids that you would see wearing a beret in high school.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's like a little too poetic, you know, like it's just he gets into the drama zone.
Yeah.
So, then we have Greg, who is voiced by Colin Dean.
Who is the best character in the show?
Yeah, he's a
That's
younger brother,
fact.
full of childlike wonder, and just probably way too happy given the circumstances. Like, he's just so happy about everything. And he's got this, like, rock with a face paint on it. He's just like, it's a rock fact!
They only really do that in the first episode, but it's so good.
Yeah, they do it in later episodes, too. Where it's like,
They do?
did you know that dinosaurs don't have ears because there are no bones in the ears? Or, no, wait, it's like, did you know that dinosaurs used to have ears, but nobody knows because there are no ears in the bones? Or there are no bones in the ears? And it's like, I don't think that's right. That's because I made it up. It's a rock fact! So, then we have Beatrice, voiced by Melanie Linsky. And she is a girl trapped in the body of a bird who is
Well, she's a bird.
No, she's a girl trapped in the body of a bird.
She's a bird.
Anyway, she is basically there to guide the boys to a witch that can help them find their way home and also help her turn back into a human. And also her family, who were also turned into birds. So this is Adelaide of the Pasture, and there's lots of references in this miniseries just from like names that are callbacks to other things, and the references are as obscure as they are numerous. So I could talk about all of them, but I don't have 2 hours to just ramble. So check Wikipedia, because those references are just everywhere. From, like, the names of things, to the names of objects, to the names of towns, to the music that plays, and just all this stuff.
Talking about, like, 1930s music, again, this show, with the, like, weird, creepy piano music.
Yeah. So, and Beatrice is also a reference to the Beatrice from Dante's Inferno, which, I mean, it's a reference, but it's not exactly an accurate reference, because Beatrice wasn't the one that guided Dante through the circles of hell. That was Virgil.
Yeah.
But Beatrice was the reason Dante went into the Inferno, but same, whatever. You get the point.
Yeah, enough about Dante.
But then there's Frog, who...
I like the frog.
He is given many names, and last of which I think was just President Washington.
That's right!
Like, as they part ways...
Come on, Mr. President.
As they part ways, like, Greg sees him being, like, hailed as the, like, Frog King or whatever. He's like, you done good, Mr. President. You done good. So, not exactly sure what the frog's deal is. He's just kind of there for the ride, just kind of chilling, you know, being a frog.
He plays the opening music.
He does. And it's weird that, like, there are two separate parts where he's singing, and then he doesn't talk at all any other time.
Yeah.
So
That's fine.
okay. And then there's the Woodsman, and this is voiced by Christopher Lloyd.
And he nails it.
So good. Okay, so this is like the old stranger that's kind of like lurking around in the woods, collecting wood from the Edelwood trees to make a special oil to keep a lantern lit, and that's like all we know, like, off the bat. So it's like right away we're like, this guy's like, I don't really trust him. And this show plays mood so well, and it's just it knows how to set tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good at it.
So, and then the woodsman warns the boys about the beast.
The Beast!
The Beast! Who is
Run!
who is voiced by Samuel Ramey, who is a classically trained actor and vocalist. Like, this guy has done, like, opera and all this other stuff. So,
See, that makes sense. Do you know anything else he's been in?
Nothing that I've seen myself.
He has a good voice for it. Like, it just sounds creepy and weird.
He's got a very operatic, almost like musical voice throughout the whole thing. Like, his voice is one of those like perfect villain voices where it's like ominous, but like what's the word I'm thinking of? Ominous
Foreboding?
but musical, sort of. Like just singing a song of doom.
Yeah. Anyways.
So then we got other voices, like Tim Curry as Auntie Whispers.
Tim Curry doing his, like, his Cartoon Network tour at this point in his life.
Yeah. This
Regular show. Was he on Adventure Time?
I think so. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. But, yeah, this was one of those things that honestly surprised me because it doesn't sound at all like Tim Curry. Like, when we
No.
think of Tim Curry, we think of Long John Silver. We think of Nigel Thornberry. We think of that evil hot dog in Regular Show.
My go-to for Tim Curry is Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, we know Tim Curry's, like, iconic voice. Doesn't sound anything like this it doesn't sound anything like that in this show. It's very, like, he's playing an old woman. So it's very, and, you know, Auntie Whispers, so it's very soft and whisper-like. And
That's the lady with the big
kind
old
of
head,
weird.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The lady, she was actually modeled after Yubaba, which is the character from Spirited Away, the Hayao Miyazaki film.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So, we also have John Cleese as Quincy Endicott and Adelaide of the Pasture.
Which one's Quincy Endicott? Was he the lonely guy?
He was the lonely rich guy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. We have Chris Isaac as Enoch.
Nice. You know what his name's a reference to?
No, what is it?
Biblical prophet.
Oh, right. Okay. We have Fred Stoller as Fred the Horse.
Do you know what his name's a reference to?
Fred Stoller.
Yeah. Good job. You win this round. Let's see how you do the next time.
Okay. So the overall story, like after when we finally get some clarification as to what's going on, Greg and Wirt are two boys from like the modern-ish era. Like we can probably assume late 80s, early 90s because tape cassettes are still a thing.
Yeah.
And so they're celebrating Halloween with some friends, and then there's like kind of a bad accident, which causes them to get lost in a forest and unsure of how to get home. So it just kind of, well, they literally go over a garden wall.
Yeah.
And
you don't know about any of this in the first episode. This is the like beginning of the last episode of the season.
basically, yeah.
Or last episode of the show. There is no season. This is the show.
Yeah. So it basically like shows exactly like, okay, we're not just doing like a regular fantasy setting thing. This is actually like supposed to be set in a modern time, and it's actually setting up more of like the whole hero's journey sort of motif. So the rest of the series, like after you learn this, you see that it's full of references of death and the afterlife, suggesting...
Wait. But you don't learn this until the end of the show.
Not exactly.
Yeah, like there's not really
They go
any
through a town
references
called
to it.
Pottsfield, which is reference to Potter's Field, which is the name of a mass grave.
Yeah.
In that episode, they dig up skeletons, which come to life and are given pumpkin heads. And everybody in that town has a pumpkin head. And when when Enoch invites Wirt and Greg to stay with them and they say no, he says, "Oh, no worries. Everyone joins us eventually. It's a town of dead people."
Yeah.
So, yeah, it has like a lot of sort of that after the whole thing ends up playing out where Wirt and Greg are kind of in between the living and the dead sort of thing. So it's kind of like another little reference to Dante's Inferno being like a living person in the dead world kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I get you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
So
I'm with it.
And Greg is wearing I forgot to mention, Greg is wearing a tea kettle upside down on his head because he's...
Well, if you wear it right side up, it won't fit.
Well, because he's being an elephant. And that way it looks like a trunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that.
It's good. It's a really sweet show. The art is fantastic because it varies between, like, your basic outlines for Greg and Wirt and Beatrice. Not that complicated.
Yeah.
Pretty simple drawings. But you look at, like, the shading and just how creepy the world is and all the detail that's put into it.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. Like, just think of that first episode with the woodsman and just how you can see all the detail of all the trees.
Yeah.
And the, like, complicated nature of the machine and the oil dripping out of it and everything.
It's really incredible. And, like, the animation has hints of, like, sort of those 30s era cartoons, you know, where everything is, like, sort of... everything keeps kind of moving a little bit. They do that in the episode where they're in a tavern and the highwayman is singing. So that part kind of weirded me out, but that's kind of an example of that. But
yeah,
a lot of people have said, and personally I agree, that this is like probably this may be one feature that could stand on the same ground as classic Miyazaki movies.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It really is. So,
because it ranges from like the serious, like the woodsman screaming at them, like "Fear the beast, run, boys, get out of the woods, don't stay in the woods for too long," to potatoes and molasses.
Yeah, it's
something on your now.
Oh man. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. I don't want to give too much away, and there is a lot more to see in this series. So
okay, hold on. You don't want to give too much away? Pete, you just said the major twist of the show.
That wasn't the major twist.
No, that's the major twist of the show, is that it's like the boys are from modern times.
Really?
And that Beatrice is a bird.
What about the lantern, Bart?
The beast! Stay away from him.
So, yeah. No. Well, okay, we clearly disagree on what the major twist of the show is.
Yes, we do.
I really don't believe that, like, setting, or that establishing the setting is really a twist, though.
I say it was, because I remember having a conversation with you and being like, it's set in, like, the 1930s, and then my wife says, well, and you're like, up, and I'm like, okay, well, clearly I can see where this is headed.
Yeah. Okay, that's a twist. If that's a twist, then M. Night Shyamalan's The Village was a twist.
It was an attempt at... Well, it was a twist. It was a good one. Like, let's not compare quality here.
It was exactly the same idea.
I know, but, like, they did it better. It's a fantastic... Okay, so the dude, Patrick McHale, he worked on Flapjack.
Yes. He also worked on Adventure Time.
Which Flapjack is the petri dish of modern animation.
Yeah, that's where we got
it's the primordial soup. Everything good.
Really great animators and just all these like storyboard artists, writers. They all came from Flapjack at one point in time.
Which is weird, because, like, I watched the show. It wasn't that good.
Yeah, but there were certain things about it that were really good, and those people were like, I'm gonna do my own thing. And they did, and it was amazing.
Their own things are great.
Yes.
I love regular show.
Also, I really love... One thing I love about Flapjack is that Bill Murray's brother is one of the main characters. And I love that dude's voice.
Brian Doyle Murphy is my favorite. In Armada, the, like, agent that takes care of Zach.
Yes.
I've always thought he sounded like Brian Doyle
Murphy. Oh my god, me too.
Or Brian Doyle Murphy.
Okay, so...
You know exactly why Zach attacked.
Okay, so getting off topic here. But, yeah, if you haven't seen Over the Garden Wall, do yourself a favor. Go ahead and watch it.
Dang it.
So, Bart, what is your subject this week?
My subject this week is the Orville.
Nice!
It's a new show that just came out this year. It's probably like the first show since like Stranger Things that it's come out and I've been like, okay, I want to watch this now. So the Orville is a Seth MacFarlane show. It came out 2017. It was actually filmed in like early 2016. That'll become important in a little bit.
All right.
Obviously based on Star Trek.
Obviously.
I don't think anybody's guessing that it's based on Star Trek. It's pretty clearly
like we
have laser guns and like transporters. And
the only thing they're missing is a neon sign.
Actually, they don't have transporters. I forgot.
Do they not? Huh.
No.
Well,
they have to take shuttles down to the
cable,
planets.
Mr. Rich Man.
I don't have cable either. I'm definitely not stealing someone's Hulu. If that's what somebody's implying. That's what I am not doing.
Absolutely not, because as we all know, that's bad, and that violates the terms of the agreement and whatnot, and we, are, as law-abiding citizens, would never condone such things. Do it! Do it! Do it!
Okay, anyways, so the show is from the mind of Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane's a gigantic Star Trek fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, it kind of runs through like all of his series to the point where when he was making American Dad and he had all the money in the world, he's like, I want Patrick Stewart on here.
Pretty much.
Isn't he like a Shakespearean actor? Up. In my show.
Yeah, and I always love it when Patrick Stewart comes on that show.
Hello, Haley.
It's so weird.
And Seth MacFarlane was actually on Star Trek. He was on Star Trek Enterprise back in the day.
Was he?
Because if you are an actor in Hollywood during a Star Trek run, you're on Star Trek. Just everybody is. That's just a thing you do.
All right.
Yeah. So this is one thing that he said. I'd love to see that franchise revived for television the way it was in the 1990s. Very thoughtful, smartly written stories that transcend the science fiction audience. I don't know who would give me the keys to that car. He made his own car.
Nice.
Like, he tried to, like, get it remade and they wouldn't give it to him, so he's like, screw it, I'll make my own. And then it just so happened yeah, it just so happened that it coincided with the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and they were like, there's a bunch of hype for it. We have to put out a show right now. And then that show got delayed for, like, a year to where we are now.
Yep.
To where, like, it actually just wrapped up its, like, half season.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, in the comparison for Star Trek, because one of the things that I've always maintained is that the first season of a Star Trek show is not good. The first season of a Star Trek show is them figuring out who they are, who the characters are, all this.
Yeah, it's hard to get a show to, like, strike oil on the first try. So, first season of Star Trek, because going through it, I counted it. I will give it 15 good episodes, 14 bad ones. All right.
Like, if we're going to straight, like, moral choice system, good, bad, 51% good. That's not the best.
Not the best, but you can say that there's more good than bad.
Yeah. Next Gen, that I've seen, because I haven't seen all the ones in first season.
Okay.
I've got 13 good, 9 bad.
Better ratio, not great still.
No. So the first episode of Next Gen is Encounter at Farpoint, and I actually tacked that up as good episode and bad episode because it's a two-parter. Mm-hmm. First half's good. Second half is a space jellyfish. And for the Orville so far, just the shows I've watched, I'm giving because there's only been 10 episodes out, I've given 8 good, 2 bad.
80?
So it's about 80%. So for me, it's running on all cylinders. It's doing fine.
Certified fresh.
Yeah. And that's counting the last episode had really, really good parts in it, even though the overlying plot line, they were kind of reaching to like get it to work. Mm-hmm. But I still like it. So your premise is you're in the 24th century, the far-flung future where mankind has spread itself across the galaxy. It's encountered all these different alien species. There's a galactic federation. And we're now focusing on this one ship called the Orville. We're focusing on one character.
Oh, okay.
And that is Captain Ed Mercer, who's played by Seth MacFarlane.
Cool.
And the show opens up with him going to his apartment, not finding his wife there, going into his bedroom, finding her in bed with another guy. The another guy is a blue alien who proceeds to blue goo all over the like sheets in the wall and part of her face.
Wow. Now, is that like...
From his head.
Okay, so that's kind of more of an ink defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Well...
But it's just one of those... She, like, looks up over the covers. Oh, gosh.
Oh, God.
And he's like... Okay. And she's like, Ed, stop. There's nothing to talk about. We need to talk about... There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about.
Wow.
And then it shows him being very sad. And then the repercussions from that. This is actually one of the things I don't like about the show is the wife's, like, infidelity. Because that seems to happen on every Seth MacFarlane woman.
Yeah.
Lois has slept with a lot of people from Family Guy. Francine slept with a lot of people from American Dad.
Yeah.
Like, was the wife like...
Donna slept with a lot of people from the Cleveland Show.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to ask. That's the one thing I don't like. I don't like him just keeping that up. It's one of those, like, dude, just, come on. Like, you have to stop this. It's been 4 shows. You have to stop. Now, she's not, like, everywhere all at once, but the infidelity gets brought up over and over again.
Yeah, although, like, it's not exactly infidelity because, let me think.
She slept with another dude. This isn't Star Trek rules where, like...
No, I'm talking about past Seth MacFarlane cartoons.
No. Past Seth MacFarlane, it's not infidelity. It's just them being... Gosh, what's a politically correct way to say this? Like, well-versed.
They just, like, they had a similar past to guys who would get high-fived for talking about these same stories.
Yeah. But... it's the fact that it happens in every one of his, like, wife characters that it makes me like, this needs to stop.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how many sitcoms are out there where the dad was like, oh, I was a stud, and it's like, oh, man, I can't believe I ran into my ex-girlfriend, and stuff like that. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah. But, anywho, so that's your opening of the show, is the interaction between Mercer and Grayson and his wife. The XO of the ship is Grayson. That comes up in the first season or in the first episode. Mm-hmm. Played by Adrienne Palicki. I think I'm saying her name right. Who was going to be Wonder Woman once, and now is on this show. But she was Perkins in John Wick.
Oh,
because all roads lead to John Wick.
Oh, so she was that girl who at the end
Yep. The lieutenant commander of the ship is a alien called Bortus.
That's a good alien
who's a
name.
Moclan. Yeah. So the Moclans, his species, it's an all male species. There is no women, which comes up later in the show. Next we have the chief of security, who is Lieutenant Alara Katan. Who's from a species that doesn't have anybody in the fleet, and she's using that to kind of ramp her career up.
So,
and she's also
being
so
the
planet
of her
she's
species to be in the Starfleet or whatever.
Yeah. Yep, because she's basically a like public affairs like project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she keeps getting like bumped up really fast. They mentioned in the first episode, it doesn't really play out anywhere else. She's also from a planet that has like double gravity of Earth.
Huh.
So she's insanely strong.
Nice.
Even though she's like 24-year-old.
Although I couldn't imagine that like, lasting a really long time because, your muscles acclimate to, how much things weigh. Like, okay, if you're used to lifting 50-pound weights and then you go to lifting 2-pound weights, you're going to be able to throw those things. And then all the people who are lifting 2-pound weights like their 50-pound weights are going to be like, oh, you're so strong. But if you are now in a place where there are only 2-pound weights, you're going to eventually only be able to lift 2-pound weights.
Yeah, but they have a holodeck, so that helps. Next we have Gordon, who's actually Ed's friend from like college, who is played by Scott Grimes, who's the same dude who does the voice of Steve from American Dad. Nice. Yeah, and there's one episode where he's like, Isaac! And you're like, hey, Steve! That's where you are. But to bring it back to American Dad, the voice of the ship is played by Rachel McFarlane, Seth MacFarlane's sister, who does the voice for Haley.
Nice.
Yeah, and they don't use the ship's computers like they do in Star Trek, where it's basically like a slave, just like, computer, tell me thing. They use it like it's the 10 minutes to imminent destruction, that kind of thing.
Cool.
Next we have John Lamar, who is your helmsman, who has, like, when the captain's, like, meeting the senior officers and it gets to him, he's like, so last captain let us have sodas on the bridge. So does that seem like the kind of thing you're going to keep up with? Sure, why not? Okay, cool. Like, that's all he cares about. This is just a job. You're just a guy.
Oh, I relate to that so hard.
We have Claire, who's the ship's doctor, who's your basically wise man character to Ed Mercer's I'm Barely Hanging On to This.
Huh.
She's really good. And you have, lastly, Isaac, who is a Kalon, who is a Robo-Man. Who is there. He left his species to come study human behavior.
Huh.
Because, okay, and they say this in the show where it's like, yeah, you're a Kalon. Aren't you guys incredibly racist? And he's like, I am not racist. I'm merely pointing out that we are more advanced than you are. That kind of thing. You can't call a character incredibly racist in these times and not have them be incredibly racist. He's moderately racist.
Man.
Yeah, but, like, Isaac's actually a really good character. I like him. I like most of the characters. Like, one of the effects I like is on the ship itself, because they built an actual model for the ship. For most of the shots. When it's moving around a whole lot, then it's just, like, CGI model. But otherwise, it's an actual, like, tracked model of the ship. But when they use their, like, quantum drive, so the ship has these 3 big loops on the back. And when they use their quantum drive, you see the lights on the ship go from, like, the edges of the loop to the center. And when it touches the center, it makes this big boom, like bass drum sound. Ooh. So it goes boom, boom, boom. And then when it warps off, it sounds like a gunshot. It's so satisfying.
Nice.
Yeah, like they nailed the sound effects and they nailed the music in this show. The music's fantastic.
Right on.
And it feels a lot like... Because you've never seen an episode, have you?
Of Orville? No.
Yeah. Okay, I recommend watching the first, 2 minutes of the first episode and then skipping to 2, only because you need to watch the last 5 minutes of episode 2, and then just watch the rest from there.
All right.
Because 2's not good, but there's a moment at the very end that's a lead in to your episode 3, and episode 3 is really good. All right. Plus, you get an awesome episode of the, male species, because it's all males, but they still have to have, pairs to mate. He laid an egg.
Huh.
So it's him, there's an episode of him just, sitting on his egg.
All right.
I have given birth, Captain. Oh, I was wondering how you guys do that. I wish to take a leave of absence. Okay. But, so Orville acts like Star Trek And that's probably the thing I like the most about it, is the fact that it's a return to that utopian Trek, that it does what Star Trek should do. Star Trek should reflect the eras of the modern age. And Star Trek should look like it's from the modern age. So that's why 60s Star Trek had girls with the crazy beehive haircuts and had hippies and all that nonsense. There was a Nam episode of the old Star Trek. This one does. There's an episode about transgender issues. Kind of like it touches on it. It's really good. It's actually episode 3. And then there's a episode that's basically commentary on like Reddit and Facebook, like upvoting, downvoting.
Huh.
And like that mob mentality that stems from that. It's really good.
Right on.
The ship is named after Orville Wright, because Seth MacFarlane was actually reading a book about the Wright brothers while he was writing the script on the set of Million Ways to Die in the West. Yeah. I think it was on that set.
I kind of wanted to see that movie, but I never got around to it.
Me neither. But speaking of that, the cameos on the show are fantastic.
Who shows up?
Liam Neeson shows up. Charlize Theron shows up. Robert Picardo, I think that's his name. Or maybe it's Richard Picardo. But he played the Doctor on Voyager. So yeah, he hired like an executive producer who worked on the 90s Star Trek shows. Like, Seth MacFarlane is making this his like child. He wants to treat it as an investment to continue on. Which is good, which it should be, because you can make whatever you want. It's your money. But there's a lot of cameos, and the makeup effects in the show are really good. This is probably, I've got to wrap up, but this is probably the last thing I get to talk about. The makeup effects are outstanding, because normal Star Trek, who's your background characters? Humans like Tom and Larry and like Steve and Greg and like Paulina and Greg in a dress and but like that's it. Like that's all you get is just characters, like just people in the background. Because Star Trek, as big of a franchise as Star Trek is, the best Star Treks were made on like a shoestring budget. The 90s one was a shoestring budget. The original series was a shoestring budget. Like, they don't have money. They just look like they have money. The Orville's like the opposite. Like, there's a bunch of alien species that are just there in the background. There's even one dude called Yaphet, played by Norm Macdonald, and he's just there, and he's just a pile of slime.
Huh.
Yeah. It's really good. Like, there's a scene in the first episode where Mercer's like running through the hallway and just like steps through him and like cuts out trails in him. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's good. And Yaphet like forms himself back up. Yaphet's great. I really hope they don't replace Norm Macdonald with Adam Carolla in the second season. But yeah, the makeup effects are fantastic for like trash, like not trash character, but just like throwaway background characters. Like there's a scene where he's making an announcement to all the crew in the like big shuttle bay, and you can see just a bunch of people in makeup in the background. They didn't need to do that, but they did. It's excellent.
Nice.
Yeah. But the Orville's a really good show. If you haven't watched it, like, just go to Hulu, give me 2 minutes of your time, go to Hulu and just watch those first 2 minutes.
Right on.
And that's, like, we got to wrap up. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Oh, I don't talk about the Star Trek episode. Spoilers, by the way. So let's get to wrap up. Pete, what do you love about Over the Garden Wall?
The overall storytelling is really great. And the flow of mood from, like, you know, wistful to happy and, you know, innocent to genuinely terrifying. It's just, like, it keeps you gripped. It keeps you interested, and it gets you invested. I
want to rob this guy. Like, it does humor very well,
steal.
Too. That's right. What do you hate about Over the Garden Wall?
Well, it also has, like, kind of a tone where everything kind of has everything's kind of a reference to something else. So, while I loved watching it, I also kept feeling like I was missing out on stuff. And
Yeah.
that irks me so hard.
Yeah, I was reading that comic Madman. It gave me the same feeling of just like I feel like I'm missing out on a joke.
Yeah, right? It's like it's like coming in on the middle of a season and they're like constantly making callbacks to earlier episodes. It's like, I don't get that joke.
Well, what about that time in Berlin? Did they kill a guy or did they sleep together? I know it's one of the two.
That's always what happens when they're like, remember what happened in Name a Place.
Well, it's like we were talking about last week. Certain places, you're getting certain things.
Yeah.
So, lastly, who is Over the Garden Wall good for?
Let's see. If you like Miyazaki movies or cartoons that explore like different genres besides just comedy or just like Looney Tunes stuff, and if you really are craving something like artful, then I think you'll really enjoy Over the Garden Wall.
It's fantastic. It's really good. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but it's just an extremely good show.
It really is. Like,
great.
I'm not doing it justice by the way I'm talking about it. There's so much to it, and if you watch it, you're going to want to get other people to watch it because you are going to have shit to discuss.
Yeah.
So, there's that for me. So, Bart, the Orville, what's your favorite thing about it?
I love how it's like good Star Trek-y like adventure. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like action-y. Because from what I've heard about Star Trek Discovery, it just takes itself really, really seriously. Like, there's one scene in the Orville where they're doing a Old West like holodeck program. And it's like, you think you can take me with all of my men on their edge? So we have to challenge you in a dance contest. Because the dude who plays the helmsman is like, what? I tweaked it. This is way more fun. Come on.
That's great. Okay, so what do you hate about it?
When the episodes are bad, they're pretty bad.
That's always a shame.
When they're good, they're great. When they're just bad, it's like, okay, let's get through this one. But luckily there hasn't been many of those.
Better a bad episode than a boring episode.
Yeah.
So,
well, it hasn't actually reached that like so bad it's good level. It's just been like boring. Like, okay, another like not cameo but kind of cameo. The episode with Charlize Theron is directed by Jonathan Frakes.
No kidding.
Yeah, who you may remember, listeners, from Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Nice.
The classic 90s
Classic. All right, so who is the Orville a good fit for?
I would say people who like Star Trek but don't like, well, not even people who like Star Trek, like people in their 20s who watched Next Gen when Netflix was like pushing it out really hard.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because what they did was they pushed it out to a bunch of people being like, oh, like here it is in your suggestions. Oh, look, how did this get here? And then they released the HD version. So you'd be like, oh man, now the HD version. So that would get hype. If you watched that or if you started that and didn't really finish it, go give the Hulu a try. If you're like a young person who's never seen a Star Trek, go give the Orville a try. Because it's a good entry point. There's not so much lore. We've already have a species who's basically the Romulans, but like they're even better. Well, they're not better, but they're different and interesting in a few ways.
Cool.
So, yeah, if you've never seen a Star Trek or if you've only seen, like, Star Trek in your, like, 20s and maybe you want to, like, get a new flavor of Star Trek, give it a shot.
Right on. All right, so that is it for us this week. I want to say thank you to OK Go for the use of their song Here It Goes Again off the album Oh No. You know them, you don't know us. You can catch me on Twitter at PeterKennyArt.
And you can catch me on Twitter at BeatPanelCom.
And, Bart, what are you going to do next week?
I'm doing Pacific Rim next week.
Nice.
I was going to do Porco Rosso. That was what was on my list. And then I'm like, the new Pacific Rim movie comes out soon.
Nice.
Though, so.
Cool.
What are you
I'm
doing?
going to do Peter Panzerfaust.
Huh?
Okay. So strap in because it's basically Peter Pan meets Inglourious Bastards.
All right, buckles
Yeah.
on. Let's do this.
So, yeah. Thank you for listening, everybody. Remember to buy Sponge.
Buy Sponge! That's terrible. Buy Sponge.